Let's go ahead and call this Pompano Beach, let's see, what are we calling this? Well, Pompano Beach Community Redevelopment Agency, City of Pompano Beach, City Commission Joint Special Meeting on Monday, May 7th, 2025 at 6 p.m. So if I could ask everyone before we get started to please silence your cell phones or put them on vibrate during the meeting so that we don't get a telephone call coming in. So if you could silence them or put them on vibrate, whatever you need to do, that'd be great. Appreciate it. Thank you. Let's go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Fezzik?
Here.
Commissioner Perkins?
Here.
Commissioner Segerson-Eaton?
Here.
Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Vice Mayor Fournier?
Here.
Mayor Harton?
Here, if I could ask everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Harrison, any changes on our agenda this evening?
No, sir.
Very good. Can I get a motion approving the agenda as printed?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. That takes us up to our regular agenda. Item number 1, update on new downtown development project and presentation. Turn it over to you, Ms. Sybil. Good evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Suzette Sybil, Assistant City Manager. We do have a PowerPoint presentation prepared for you this evening. Just to set the stage, we're not requesting any approvals for any items we discussed this evening. This will be the first of 3 meetings that we're going to be having. Tonight's meeting, we have another joint meeting scheduled for April 30th. And then on May 14th is when anything we discussed this evening in terms of funding, in terms of proposed amendments to the Master Development Agreement, incorporating additional project elements, would be brought to you for formal approval. Over the last couple of weeks, we've had several community meetings to garner additional input. I know that the developer has met with District Commissioner and Commissioner Perkins on some of these elements that she feels are important to her community. They also benefit other districts in the city, just to be clear on some of these elements as well. So we want to highlight some of those additional project elements this evening for your consideration. Once we complete this meeting, we are trying to schedule an additional workshop on April 24th to have more of a casual discussion with the architects for City Hall and the garage. You'll meet them this evening. And at that workshop, we can also get in the weeds more on funding options as well as propose amendments to the Master Development Agreement. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over and kick things off with Mr. Tommy DeGiorgio, who's the chair of the Pompano Beach Economic Development Council.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzette. Mayor, Vice Mayor, got to start very seriously tonight. Go Gators.
You're here. Yes, yes.
Important night tonight. Dennis, I'm wearing a tie. Thank you all. It's really, in all seriousness, it really is an exciting time at Pompano Beach. My wife's like, you know, there's people coming to the house tonight. And I said, but yeah, I wouldn't miss this for the world. And something we've been working on for quite a long time. So as you know, many of you were there.
Just identify yourself for the record.
Oh, sorry. Tom DeGiorgio, Chairman of the Economic Development Council.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So, as you can see on the screen there, starting back in 2023, we started having meetings and outreach about the downtown. And it looks like we've been doing this for a little bit of time, but the reality is that's not nearly the case. Even though you see all those meetings, and most recently, the last couple months, where we had a number of roundtables, we've been doing this since 1993. I want to take it back. At a meeting when I was the chair of the Pompano Beach Economic Group, which was the precursor to the Economic Development Council, I invited then Mayor Pat Larkins to come join us. And Mayor said, you know, there's a lot of things happening in the east part of Pompano Beach. A lot of things planned for the east part of Pompano Beach. But the reality is there's nothing happening in my neighborhood. We've got to do something. And at that meeting, he said, we know we need to reach out there. And he coined a phrase, Vision 2000. Now, unfortunately, government the way it is moves a little bit slower. So it's Vision 2025, but we're here. At the same time, in 1994, our Commissioner Beverly Perkins from District 4 was in charge of the MLK Beautification District. She was working very hard with beautifying MLK at the time. She called me in for a meeting. We talked about what can we do? What can we do with this part of town? And we said we're going to work on it. And she's been working on it ever since. Fast forward to 2008, then Commissioner Ed Phillips had a meeting, said, Tommy, we got to think about our downtown, our geographical center, our cultural center. What are we going to do here? And we had a meeting. We came in and went about 3 hours. Meeting started with a little bit of don't tell, who's doing what, why are you coming here to tell us what to do. By the end of the meeting, there was 103 people in the room. 99 people in that room were asked a question with a little clicker in their hand. And they said, did you learn anything today? 99 out of 103 said yes. The last question was, are you willing to take action to make this downtown come to fruition? 103 out of 103 said yes. And those folks have been ever since. And many of you are still here right now, volunteers and the folks sitting on the dais. So thank you for that. In 2015, there was this new idea of these innovation districts coming online. There was already some done around the world, Barcelona, Madrid, Nice, France, other places that you've seen this. And we said, you know what, Pompano Beach is ripe for an innovation district. So we started with that conversation. So it wasn't that 2023 when we started talking about this. Our innovation district goes back to 2015 when we brought experts in to talk about what are the potential for Pompano Beach. So they started with, where is your innovation district? Boy, that innovation district looks familiar to what we're talking about, doesn't it? Look at everything on that board. Lincoln Broward College, culinary innovation, state-of-the-art visuals for every aspect of it to create incubation hubs. These are already, we identified this at the time, these are already at the time our Fortune 100 companies in Pompano Beach that we know we can partner with, and we still can. So what's the big thing with an innovation district? And here's why we identified Pompano Beach as one. I'm just going to read this. I never do this at these because I know we're running short on time tonight with the game coming, but I am going to read this first paragraph because it's really important to put into the record. Innovation districts create a major transformation. Trend-setting cities around the globe are creating innovation districts, transforming underutilized swaths of land into dynamic areas full of corporate sophistication, startup edginess, walkable communities, trendy restaurants, hip housing, and cultural clusters. That's what we envisioned in 2016. Almost 10 years later, here we are. So where is the district? Showed you the picture. You are the City Commission and the CRA board. You obviously know where this is, but for those back home, it's 95, just east, and travels just east of Dixie Highway. It goes to the north to MLK, to the south to Atlantic, and it actually includes this building right here. That's what it looks like today. This is the potential for what it could look like, that envision of that innovation district, with all those things that I just read in that paragraph. So here's the economic impacts. A lot of numbers up there, but there's two important ones. $2 billion transformation. That will be one of the largest projects in eastern Florida, east of 95. Will be the largest project in the history of Pompano Beach, and it is in our geographical and cultural center. Not on the beach, not way out west, directly in our center. Very exciting. But why is that $2 billion so important? You'll hear numbers talked about tonight about what the city is going to invest. City's going to invest about $200 million. We're going to get $2 billion in return from private sector investment. That's just in the district. Then you look about what happens outside of the district when the city invests in itself. The averages across the United States is that a city that invests in itself will get a return from the private sector of 5 to 8 times their initial investment. It's a great number. We have a track record. We spent $45 million on the beach. The city, with bonds and others, we spent $45 million. That $45 million created $1 billion of private investment. Why is that important to us? It's important because it keeps our taxes low. It keeps us in the lower 30% of Broward County. It allows us to have the state-of-the-art parks and rec that we have, the cultural arts that we have, the social and quality of life that we have in Pompano Beach that we have not experienced in many, many years. That's why we encourage private development. And that's why cities that invest in themselves will get projects that you see right up here. With that, I want to leave you that where we are today, as it stands right now, is at a point that we've never had this opportunity before. We have never had the ability to say, yes, I am going to make a difference in our true downtown. I know change is scary for some, but when we go back, I talked about Pat Larkins, I talked about Commissioner Perkins, I talked about others who have come before us. I talk about, you'll hear one thing tonight is about the legacy of Pat Larkins and the Pat Larkins Center. I can tell you that in the spirit of the Innovation District, creating a world-class community center that lives up to that Innovation District is something we should all consider. And with that, I'll call up Nguyen Tran.
Thank you, Tommy. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the City Commission and CRA Board. Nguyen Tran, CRA Director. I'm here to talk about acquisition. Our acquisition team has been very busy for the past 10 months since the signing of the Master Development Agreement back in June of 2024. So what you see here on the map, all the red parcels indicate the CRA-owned properties. All the blue parcels indicate city-owned properties. We own a lot more than these properties. However, these properties were offered up for development to the master development, to the master developer in the invitation to negotiate. Acquisition will continue. However, we've made extremely forward progress on acquiring key parcels. The yellow parcels are all the properties that we have acquired over the past 9 months. As you can see, it's a total of 18 parcels acquired in 9 months. Extremely, very busy. Two of the most important acquisitions that I'm very proud of is the 2 convenience stores in this area, the Saxon Walls on Northwest 3rd Avenue, which is shut down, and the Quick Stop, which is still in operations now, but eventually will shut down as well. These are our key property acquisitions. We no longer acquire properties to acquire it. These are our infill of the current accumulation of properties that we have. What's important about this map here, as you can see, we created developable pads. That's important, especially east of Northwest 6th Avenue. So we can start the design work on the drainage system, that linear canal system that you see, and also keep that as linear as possible. But it also allows us a shift of what you will see and hear next with the master developers, why City Hall is located where it's at now. These are all willing sellers. We didn't have to do anything else. They were all willing to sell, but they were all reasonable sellers. So that's the key point here. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Danielle Handy and Phil Mays from Roca Point Partners.
Thank you, Nguyen. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Danielle Handy. I'm the Government Relations and Development Manager for Roca Point Partners. It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you for your time. This was the master plan from June 2024. I'm sure you all are very familiar with this master plan. This original concept was predicated on the relocation of the existing City Hall to the western end of the master development. This entire redevelopment project, of course, contemplates about 4 million square feet of retail, office, multifamily, and civic and government type uses. As you can see, a lot of the acquisition that Nguyen was mentioning has been east of Northwest 6th Avenue, and for that reason, we started re-examining the master plan for this latest update to re-envision where we could see the City Hall, and we noted the City Hall would be really a great location to have on the eastern side of the redevelopment project because of its proximity to the Northeast Transit Center, the future commuter rail station, as well as the ingress in and out for the site. So we spent some time looking at this, and we realized this is a great opportunity to have this City Hall within walking distance for anyone that's trying to get to the site from a multimodal standpoint. A lot of the elements of the master plan have remained the same, including the long linear stormwater facility and a lot of the retail and other buildings that are both set that are both adjacent to this stormwater feature. We know the stormwater feature is going to be a very critical element to the master plan just because so many people really want to be next to water. It's a good feature just for activating this entire project. This is the view of the master plan. This is facing west, and so with City Hall relocating to the eastern side of the project, there's a great opportunity to have perhaps an office headquarter on your western edge. This would have really great visibility adjacent to I-95, so we see there's a lot of opportunities here with this reimagined master plan. Along Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard, this road has actually stayed exactly the same as we had contemplated previously, with ground level retail on that on this frontage, so that we can activate it and make this road really live up to its name. And this is an eastern view of the project. So this is, where you're starting to see some of the other changes that have come along with this master plan. And for one, if you look in the very back of the rendering toward the left, upper left, you'll see a location for the City Hall, and adjacent to that, a possible location for a food hall, restaurants, small office spaces, local businesses, and an activated green space. And in our view, when we do these redevelopment projects, it's so key and critical to have some type of anchor, and in this case, it's the City Hall. This City Hall is basically the heart of this redevelopment project adjacent to this activated green space. And the reason for that is it's really the economic engine for this entire redevelopment project. When you think about people that are coming to City Hall, what are they coming to do? They're coming to either pay their taxes, or perhaps they're coming to pick up a building permit, or maybe they're meeting with code enforcement. But while they're here visiting City Hall, they can also go and visit a restaurant and have a bite to eat, or maybe do some shopping for family. And one of the things that we've really observed with our redevelopment projects is when you have a very strong anchor, it creates these opportunities for people who don't normally go to a downtown area. Maybe it invites all different types, walks of life, basically. You have all these different people that are coming and they're saying, you know what, maybe next time I go to City Hall, I'm going to go try that restaurant out, or maybe this weekend I'm going to bring some of my friends and family to come check this place out. So we love this as an anchor. It also is great just from like a parking standpoint, having the City Hall as your anchor, because it's a good balance of use. For example, Monday through Friday, that's normally when governments are their busiest. And then on the weekends, that's normally when your retail and your restaurants are busiest. So it's actually a great convergence of uses, and we are very, very excited about the City Hall being an anchor to this mixed use. And one other element to this site plan that I think is really noteworthy is the activated green space. So this is where all of the energy comes alive in this area. This is where, with the mixed-use development, you can have different types of events here. You could have cornhole, you could have ladies' nights out, you could have talent shows, all different types of activities to really engage the community, bring people together, and generate excitement and enthusiasm. This is where the whole community really can benefit, because they have places to go with their family, with their friends. When they have people that are in town for the holidays, they have somewhere fun and exciting. And what we like to say is it's a reason to stay another day. So perhaps one of the days that you have people visiting, they're going down to the beach, well, maybe this is one more day that people, visitors, tourists would want to stay so that they could check out this new downtown. And what's really great about these activations is that they're privately funded. So your retailers, your office tenants, your multifamily, those are really the individuals that are paying for this. So this isn't an expense to the taxpayer. And we've seen a lot of interest in our other projects with these types of events, especially weekly cornhole. You'd be surprised. Cornhole, bocce ball, it's a huge hit at our other projects. And in a lot of places, you also want to have this opportunity for park space and convening with nature, and so we believe this is also an important part of any successful redevelopment project. With this, that concludes my presentation. I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Phil Mays. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners, Mayor, Vice Mayor. Phil Mays from Roca Point Partners. Great to be here with you this evening to present this update. We've had a really wonderful time around Pompano Beach over the past few weeks in each district with community meetings, and it's really an honor to be able to come here tonight. I'm here tonight to talk about EPAT Larkin Center. We know quite a bit about EPAT Larkins, even the center, when we first looked at this property or the project back as an RFP a couple of years ago. And what was really clear was that EPAT Larkins Center was a real heartbeat in the center of the Northwest community. Very important building where a lot of different events are housed every year in District 4 in the Northwest, and really pays homage to a great pioneer of the city. So we knew going forward this would be a really important building to look at, whether as contemplated in the Master Development Agreement, there's a new building, or whether it stays, or whatever happens, it's a very important building. This is a look at how it sits today. We've actually presented there a couple of times, and we'll be there, or a few, more than a couple, and be there next week again. So that's just good to get a perspective there, because it's quite a bit different than some of the other community centers that we've presented at in Pompano. We've looked at a lot of things with regards to a potential EPAT Larkins. Like I said, the Master Development Agreement requires our development firm to look at what a new, or explore what a new one looks like. And that's really what we're here to talk about, or I am this evening, as far as the next several slides. We know that potentially a new EPAT Larkins Center needs to be obviously still in the new downtown location, still on MLK Boulevard. And of course, this has been a little bit of a misconception that I heard around a little bit, but of course the existing EPAT Larkins would have to stay operational until a new one was built, and basically the keys were handed over, and the new one was operational. We have looked at potentially a new one. We know it would be obviously state-of-the-art, larger. It would go from 13,000 square feet to 20,000 square feet. We get state-of-the-art design, number one. Number two, state-of-the-art audio-visual. Very important, getting into things like multimedia type of tutorial events and workshops and so on. Larger ballrooms. We know that right now it's a little bit, or probably more than a little bit, too small for the different events that are happening there. But we know we can accommodate in a 20,000 square foot space a larger ballroom for 500 to 700 people. We've had a lot of discussion about a legacy wall for the community and for a sports hall of fame for Pompano, and that's something a newer or a new larger center could accommodate. Obviously, additional meeting space, multimedia flex type space, and exhibit rooms and so on. Really, as you see these new community centers, coming around the southeast, they're really amazing new buildings. There's just a lot we can do now with architecture and design that wasn't done 20 and 30 years ago. I think are really important, and this is just a conceptual of what it could look like, is how we now use outdoor and indoor space. So you can see the terrace on the second floor, and you're really able to spill out into outdoor spaces in a much more meaningful way than was done a decade or two ago. And again, these are just a lot of conceptuals. This gives a nod into AI and the tech type of situation that's done now in these developments and the opportunities. Actually, a lot of the conceptuals we do now, certain parts of land planning, architecture, construction management even, all this stuff is really with AI and really the leading edge of technology. But we think there's a grand entry warranted here, which is really where you can handle these legacy type walls, Sports Hall of Fame. And again, these are concepts. We think this is a super important space, multimedia space, just for how important technology is today for really all ages, and especially young people. But this is a great type of room that we see in other areas being used for workshops and so on for local community. And we think this space wants to be one of the more important spaces as far as the design, with light, a lot of big windows, light and bright, and really great place to study. That's interesting. Again, more multimedia type spaces, and obviously the ballroom is super important in this location, to really hold a number of people and have a special type of events. And again, private weddings, receptions, events. These ballrooms can really do a lot of different things in a high quality type of manner. The courtyard, again, this is ground level, so again, incorporating the outdoors with the indoors, we think is very important in a community center like this. And really, not only do you have the 20,000 square feet, but quite a bit more space of a really interesting event space when you can incorporate the outdoors. And again, we think the conference rooms are important as well. So important meetings, community meetings to be had in space that really is of the utmost quality and professional looking, and quite a bit different than what exists at the center today. And here's obviously a site map of where we are today. And the yellow square in the middle is where EPAL Larkin Center currently resides. A good piece of that is actually parking and some land behind the building. And then the city the CRA owns, actually multiple properties along MLK that would lend itself to potentially new EPAL Larkins. One right next to the park where Nguyen talked about the really strategic acquisitions of properties there. So now, there's this great location that would spill out in front the MLK and the park, and there's a pretty good amount of space or property there owned by the CRA. And there's another spot there to the left, which would be a good spot as well. But again, there's other potential locations. Those are the ones we thought worked best, especially with a park activation. One thing we've had some talk about is, what would, on a new EPAL Larkin Center, on a potential new EPAL Larkin Center, what does a time frame look like? And this is, an example. If we issued an RFQ, say next month, we go into, we quickly interview architects, and we go through a process of getting all of those applicants in and interviewing them, selecting a final, making that award. And then you start with the design and then get back into community design and workshop programs, which we would be seeing in September to November of this year. And then getting preliminary concepts back in front of the community and the commission, and final concept design by potentially February of 2026. But that's just a timeline of a potential new center. So it's important for, I think, as we were going through some of these other meetings to understand that. Next, I'll hand it over to Leanne and Mike regarding City Hall.
Afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen of the audience. My name is Michael Rada. I'm the building official at City Hall. I'm here to talk a little bit about the existing building. It's 34 years old. It's really seen its useful life. There's some examples. There we go. Okay. This is the roof of City Hall.
Yeah, and Mike, excuse me, Mike, make sure you speak into the microphone so everybody can hear you, and also people who are at home can hear you.
Okay. As you can see on this slide, the roof of City Hall has seen better days. And new roof is going to be a substantial amount of money. Since we had built the air conditioning chiller building, there's a lot of framework up there that's causing penetrations through the roof that are no longer necessary up there, that should be removed. The space inside of City Hall, as you can see with the storage, there's no storage space. We have employees that are jammed in the closets. We have roof leaks, wall leaks, and the building is just not functioning as it could be. The existing building doesn't meet FEMA requirements. Through my years of a building official, I've run into other colleagues, and a fellow named John Travers in Fort Lauderdale recently experienced the devastating images of flood. Their building in Fort Lauderdale, their electric room and their software were completely wiped out, and they ended up demolishing the building. And they're scrambling now to get a new place to operate with their employees. The existing building will only withstand a Category 3 windstorm. The new City Hall, we are looking at a fantastic opportunity that Tommy presented, where we could have a flexible, modern, or functional building that I think would serve the needs of the employees and the citizens alike. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Leanne.
Thank you all. My name is Leanne Korsten. I lead CBRE's public sector practice in the Southeast region. And as you might imagine, in this capacity, We do a lot of consultation with governments on administrative type facilities like city halls because they are obviously serving such a critical role in citizen services. So a couple of years ago at the start of this assignment, we were asked to take a look at the current condition of City Hall and whether or not you need a new City Hall. And the short answer to that question was we found that you do, in fact. And it's for a couple of reasons. Mike touched on a couple of them, but one of them is you've outgrown it. It's not unlike a situation where you have a house that's 35 years old and your family's grown, and the condition of the house, it needs continued investment. So what's important on this slide is that you've outgrown it. Your population has increased by, I think it's 56% since this City Hall was built. And the second is condition. If you continued to occupy this building for another 20 years, you would need to put another $18 million into the building to take care of some capital improvement requirements to continue to occupy it. So you've outgrown it, and to expand it would cost to the tune of about $28 million. So in addition to the $18 million in capital investment, to expand it would be about another $28 million. So there's some facts or figures on this page that are important. But we also want to talk about the need for a new City Hall, and Tommy touched on it earlier, but it's unlocking the value of your current site. City Hall doesn't need to sit on the amount of acreage that you're currently on, and this piece of property is prime real estate, and it can be relocated as per the development master plan and unlock and create that value. So on this page, we also talk about the fact that you have an opportunity to be proactive. Unlike your neighbor to the south that Mike mentioned, you're taking a proactive approach before a storm event. You're addressing the maintenance. When you move into a new home, for example, all the systems work, they're new, the roof's new, and you don't have to make any capital investments for a period of 15 years or more. So in conclusion, as I said at the beginning, age, outgrowth, and value are the three primary drivers and reasons that we believe you need a new City Hall. Now I will turn it back over to Danielle.
Hello again. I wanted to provide a very brief update on where we have been since we last met in the summer to discuss what we have been doing in terms of procurement, what consultants we have hired. We have issued 4 RFQs since we had the Master Development Agreement signed over the summer. 2 of them were for architecture, and then the other 2 were for civil and survey. For the civil engineering and survey portions of this downtown redevelopment project, the RFQ was issued to Keith Engineering, and this was after we had gone through a competitive bidding process with the procurement, and we also followed all Florida statute requirements. We went ahead and went through the CCNA. We had distributed these RFQs to hundreds and hundreds of people, and so we were happy to have Keith submit. We interviewed. They were a great fit. They have obviously a lot of experience, local knowledge. They are very abreast of all of the Broward County regulations, City of Pompano regulations, and we've been working with them now for several months on getting updated survey and beginning to really dive into the civil engineering piece of it. We have also, like I mentioned a moment ago, we've brought on HOK as the architect for the new City Hall and for the parking deck, and again, that was through a competitive bidding process with CCNA being followed, and we're very, very excited to have them here today to give you an update on their efforts and bring you up to speed. With that, I will pass this on to Jonathan Ray. Thank you.
Evening, my name is Jonathan Ray, architect with HOK. Principal in charge for this particular project. I have 31 years of experience, 28 of it here in the state of Florida, so I know how to deliver a large, complicated building here in Florida.
Hi
there. I'm Christine Johnson. I'm a Civic and Justice Director with HOK. I've spent over 20 years focusing on government building types, so I'll be one of the subject matter experts helping with the City Hall.
So for those of you that may not be familiar with HOK, we are an international design firm. We were founded in 1955, so we've been around for 70 years this year. We have 26 offices worldwide. 2 of them are here in Florida, in Miami and in Tampa. We have more than 1,700 employees worldwide. You can see the statistics on the right there. We are well recognized as leading experts in the field of architecture. To give you an idea where some of our offices are worldwide, you can see most of them are concentrated in the United States, but we do have offices in Canada, Asia Pacific, the Middle East, and Europe. We focus on 14 prime markets, 14 areas of expertise, people that, like Christine, that are specific experts in this. This building focuses on 4 of those areas of expertise. There's a quality of overlap on our expertise and this building need. We also have a number of disciplines within our firm. The variety of disciplines that will also be incorporated in this building will bring an overall quality to the building. And then just to focus on the Southeast United States portion of HOK, we have 4 offices that all operate as a single business unit. That's Miami, Tampa, Atlanta, and Washington, D.C. There's 215 employees in those 4 offices. And over the last 5 years, we have completed 10 civic and government buildings in the state of Florida. Currently, we have 3 of them in progress, 2 under construction. Our office in Florida was established here in 1984, so we're certainly very familiar in what it takes to deliver a building in Florida. You know, the heat, the humidity, the hurricanes, all the specifics that's required to do a building here in Florida. And then you can see as a firm in the upper right-hand corner there, these types of buildings, City Hall type buildings, we've delivered 20 million square feet over the years.
So I want to talk a little bit about our market expertise. As Jonathan mentioned, HOK, we're national leaders in civic and government buildings like city halls. And we work with communities here in Florida as well as all across the United States on these facilities and really making sure that we're delivering on their vision. A lot of governments have a common vision and want beautiful, functional buildings that are also fiscally responsible. These buildings can also be used as tools that can help attract and retain talent working in your government facilities. And of course, we want to make sure, first and foremost, that they are effectively delivering services to your communities. So what I want to do is walk through a few case studies of some of our experience. So this first one right here, this is a replacement building, temporary office building for the state of California. So this building is currently housing all of their legislature and executive branch while the Capitol is being renovated. So the Capitol's on the left, the building that we designed is in the forefront there. So this is a 10-story building. It is larger than your facility, but it has very similar features. There's a whole complement of hearing rooms and chamber spaces so that the legislature can function during this renovation process. This building is also a very sustainable building in that it was LEED Platinum and it is net zero energy and net zero carbon as well. So moving a little closer to home, Jonathan mentioned some of the projects that we have that are under construction that are very similar. This is an administration facility in Sarasota County, Florida. So this is under construction right now. It's very close in size to your contemplated city hall. It's at 120,000 square feet. What's nice is it's also very similar in perspective budget to your city hall. So just like what's happening here, this was a consolidation of different stakeholder groups that had not been working in one consolidated facility in the past. So this was really an exercise in consensus building, figuring out what a modern workplace looks like in the future and developing that flexible space that they can adapt and grow as they move forward. On the right-hand side of the slide, you see some of their chamber spaces, which are very similar in size to what we're looking to do here for your city hall. So again, this is Sarasota building. So one of the projects that Jonathan and I are really proud of that just broke ground earlier this year is for the state of Florida. It's the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services building. Again, very fiscally responsible, working for the state. This building has come in on budget, is a larger building, but again, it's all about consolidation. So there were 13 different departments that are coming together in this building that were located all across Tallahassee, moving in here, and this was about delivering upon a space standard that offered that modern workplace and also enhancing their training capacity, their training amenities. So many of their department groups are doing internal trainings and then trainings across the state, so it's really important to deliver on a state-of-the-art, very technologically enhanced training facility. And so a little bit of a project update. Over the past few months, we've been primarily focused on programming and also starting to understand your site. One of the things that I've mentioned, a lot of the first steps are about understanding the flexible space standard and how we apply that for any of the clients that we're working with. So that is one of the first things that we built consensus on with stakeholders. We also met with over 18 different groups over a course of about a month, building consensus on what is that square footage number, how does that apply coming together in the building. And one of the things that's pretty impressive, the number that we've arrived upon is 116,288 gross square feet. That's very much in alignment with what we looked at before from your original studies for the facility. This is showing staff growth, and it is expressing that target for the future, which is a 20-year outward look, which is 2045. This is also reflecting all of the different departments that are not currently in City Hall that are going to be relocating here. So they're all listed on this, this slide deck.
So last week we met with Principal Williams and Assistant Principal Rowe at Blanche Ely to talk about how we could engage with them, engage with their students, and help convey what it's like to be an architect, what it's like to be a contractor, what it's like to be an engineer. So we talked about a series of panels we could set up, have meetings with the students, allow interaction between ourselves and the students in terms of questions, in terms of what we do, explain a little bit more detail what we do as licensed professionals in these various fields so they can get much more of an idea of the track that we have taken in our careers. With that, we then talked about ACE Mentorship Program. That's actually a national organization that brings together architects, contractors, engineers, and high school students with the sole purpose of allowing high school students to see how each of these professions work. We do hands-on training. We get them involved in real-world projects. We would have them visit construction sites potentially, visit professional firms, work on skill development, teamwork, communication, problem solving. All things that help develop a team as a whole, and all this is as a goal for a career or further education post high school. And then on the project schedule, it's been mentioned earlier in this presentation, we're fairly early in the process as architects in our concept design. You can see that the goal here is to have a concept complete in June, here in a couple of months. But in the overall timeline, that's fairly early in the process. The upcoming meetings, you can see over the next 5 weeks or so, there's 5 upcoming meetings, all in the public, so that we can gather information and lead that to a solution that encompasses everybody's ideas. All right, Suzette.
Thank you, Jonathan. So I want to take a moment to talk about additional project elements and project funding options for the downtown project. So I started out talking earlier about conversations that's been had with Commissioner Perkins, with herself and the developer. I've spoken to her as well on a few of these elements. So the majority of the list and additional elements that I'm presenting on came about based on those evolving discussions. There are a few things on here that we kind of brought into the mix based on community engagement over the last few weeks as well, and just things that we thought were important to the community. So the first thing on the list is cultural and heritage preservation. And we heard the community loud and clear, the Northwest community. Obviously, they're very concerned about losing their heritage in the area. A lot of businesses that used to be here, a lot of their pioneers are not here anymore, and we wanted to work together to try to figure out a way that we could honor and pay homage for those before us who lived in the Northwest District, and we want to honor them by incorporating different elements into the project. So one of the things that came up was possibly a pioneer monument. And we agreed with that. We think it's a great idea. That monument, of course, could be located anywhere within the downtown project, and there could be ongoing discussions with the district commissioner and community stakeholders in terms of which pioneers in the community could be honored through that monument process. Also, we talked about honoring businesses that used to be located on Hammondville Road and Rock Road by having pavers marked with their names, and of course those pavers as well could be located throughout the downtown project, and of course that further discussions can evolve with the community and the district commissioner as it relates to that additional element. We also talked about a sports hall of fame and also a legacy wall. And the idea was if we were to construct a new E.Pat Larkin Center, we would incorporate those elements within the center, and we would work with the community in terms of who would make it onto the wall, as well as the sports wall, as well as the legacy wall. One of the major components that we discussed was incorporating an educational component into the project. And one of the things that came up was a vocational tech component focusing on culinary and hospitality program. We also talked about a college resource center where high school kids could get additional tutoring. They could have access to resources to talk about financial aid assistance, scholarship opportunities. Again, just providing additional resources to help to support our high school students here in the city. We would be looking to incorporate these elements if we were to construct a new E.Pat Larkin Center within the downtown, not in its current location, but Phil earlier presented 2 possible locations. We would love to continue that discussion with the district commissioner and the community in terms of one of those locations that they feel would work for them, or they could propose a different location still on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Now, what I did want to mention here is in cultural and heritage preservation, you know, we don't see those as big impacts on our project budget, so we'll be able to incorporate that pretty easily into the existing program. However, for the vocational tech component and the resource center, it would require us to increase the project budget. We've estimated about $6 million. It includes furniture, fixtures, and equipment to basically equip the vocation tech with a nice kitchen. Obviously, that's the whole point of the program. So we're estimating about $6 million in cost at this point to make that a reality. So we would have to increase our program budget to make that happen. The other element is residential housing. The code currently requires 15% workforce housing, so we have to comply with that as part of the project, and 25% would be the target for workforce housing in the project. We would have to see how things evolve because there is a fiscal impact adding additional workforce housing to the project, so we would have to see how that evolves over time and how it fits into our overall finance plan. So again, 15% is the code requirement, with the 25% being the target. Commercial, residential developers and contractors. You know, last year there was a motion made to have a minority set aside for the project. Obviously, since then, there's been a lot of developments that's come down from the federal level, the state, with diversity, equity, inclusion measures. There are lots of words you can't use in contracts. I've had extensive conversations with legal about that, and we cannot agree to do minority set-asides in the project because of those reasons and all of those kind of guidelines that we're seeing coming down from the federal to the state levels, et cetera. So what we're looking at right now is 30% county certified small business enterprise and county business enterprise program, or local vendors. So we don't want to just restrict this 30% initiative to just SBEs and CBEs. We want to make sure there are opportunities for local vendors to participate as well. And we're looking at a project-wide incentive for the entire project. And you'll see the last bullet there. What we are recommending at this time is a 1% of construction cost incentive at a cap of $2 million, because the objective here is when you're hiring a GC, whether it's the civic building, so we're talking about our civic obligations in a project, which is about $99 million is what it's going to cost us to construct our civic buildings, but then you have all of the end uses, the hotel, the multifamily, the office and retail, et cetera, and those carry construction costs as well. So we're contemplating the 1% incentive across the board for all project elements. We would sit down at the table at the time when we're selling the pads to have these discussions, but it's incentivizing those developers who are not yet at the table to come to the table and to want to do this. They will incur a cost to do it, so we have to pass through an incentive to them, because usually they may have their subcontractors that they work with already, or their general contractors, so we feel like we do agree that an incentive to get them to want to participate in this program is very important. And again, we're recommending 1% across the board at a cap of $2 million. Now, we've also talked a lot when we went out to a roundtable, we had sign-up forms. We want to take the opportunity to not wait for this project to get kicked off. You know, we can have workshops as early as August of this year. We already had sign-up forms at the roundtable meetings to encourage those in the community who have an interest in working in the downtown, whether you're a general contractor, a subcontractor, or simply you are an individual who wants to work in construction. Maybe you do it now. Maybe you want help getting to the next level, licensed and insured. We want to bring some strategic partners to the table to engage individuals in the community. We want to still start building those databases together with the help of our purchasing department, and of course in coordination with ROCA partners over time. Again, this is a 10 to 15-year project. We have time to do this, to engage the community and get people signed up. That way, when we have people that come to the table to construct all these uses in the downtown, we have these lists readily available to them, and these opportunities are out there. Again, we plan to have a lot of outreach events, whether at community centers or on the job site. We've found in the past that on-job site events are very important, and we want to continue that throughout this project. So again, just continue to engage the community, engage our local contractors to make sure they're aware of what those opportunities are and when they're coming to the table. So before a project is bid, again, they're aware and they can engage and they can participate in the project. The other thing we heard loud and clear is employment for Northwest residents. So we are proposing hiring a job placement consultant. We would do that through a public competitive process to make sure that people can compete in that process for that position, and that they bring some staff on board. And again, that person would be important in being a liaison for jobs in the downtown, whether it's temporary construction jobs or permanent jobs through all the uses that will be constructed over time. Small business participation, we also heard this loud and clear, you know, are there going to be small business opportunities in the downtown? And one of the things that we discussed was creating an incubator program outside of the Sonata space. The CRA currently is leasing that space. It's about 3,000 square feet. We would be looking for somebody to come in and operate that space through a public competitive procurement process once again. The other thing we discussed with the community, we heard loud and clear, is how do we make retail spaces affordable? And one of the concepts was we're going to have a lot of mixed-use development throughout the development, also up Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. So we understand that to lease a large square footage amount of space may not be affordable to those in the community who may want these small business opportunities. So we're looking at a model where this retail space becomes available, the CRE goes in and has those discussions, and they lease the space. They then break it up into smaller spaces and sublease it to those who go through the incubator program. That would be my recommendation. I think all too often, people start a small business, but for whatever reason, it fails within the first 2 years, and there are different reasons it fails, right? Maybe you didn't have a good business plan. You didn't go into it with a good marketing plan. You didn't have a good finance plan. So we want to make sure you have those resources going into this to set you up for success, and keep those resources going and those support services going through the first 2 years that you're in business to continue to support you to increase your likelihood of success. So we think this is a great partnership for the CRA. They've done it before through different programs. They would be looking at incentives as well to help for build out of these spaces for those who go through the incubator program and ultimately make it to a retail space. Community Benefits Grants Program, this has nothing to do with the city. The developer, Roca Point Partners, they are willing to put aside $500,000 in a fund, and that fund would be utilized to fund different schools in the Northwest, nonprofits, and private schools as well. So again, that's something that would be tied to certain milestones that Roca would achieve. So they would agree to put that funding aside today, but again, it would be released upon certain milestones being met, meaning the installation of the infrastructure, the certificate of occupancy being issued for City Hall, and the parking garage. And then at that point, there could be discussions on how those funds would be distributed for that list of groups, which there is a list. Also, resident tenant location and transition. This has been concerns from the community. We've had 18 acquisitions to date, as Nguyen mentioned, since June of 2024. We really haven't had any opportunities for anyone to take part in the program. Most of the products were for sale homes, and of course they were compensated well, and that was built into the compensation, and they were able to take the sale proceeds and relocate as they wanted to. So, but going forward, certainly as additional acquisition opportunities present themselves, and there are tenants involved, the CRA does have an existing policy, and we certainly would be implementing and carrying out that policy to make sure that those residents are relocated accordingly. Okay, funding options. So funding options, last year when the City Commission and the CRA Board approved the Master Development Agreement, we had two funding options laid out. The first was a client-tenant lease with Roca Partners, whereby they would borrow the funds directly, and then we would enter into a lease arrangement with them where they would serve as the landlord for the civic buildings. And at that time, the total project costs initially were $114 million or so. The maximum annual lease payment over a 30-year time frame was about $12.9 million. That meant that over the 30 years we would incur, including interest and financing costs, about $386 million for all of the civic buildings. That's an assumed rate of return of 8%. I also wanted to leave the door open at the time for the city to self-finance the project also. I don't like to leave money on the table, call me cheap, but we talked about all of those additional project elements. If we were to add the vocation tech and the college resource center, the cost right now is about $6 million to do that. Also, we talked about the incentives to the contractors and developers. You saw there was a cap on $2 million on that, so we're incurring about an additional $8 million in costs. And looking at all of that, if you look on the right, if we were to self-finance this project directly as a city, we would utilize a mechanism known as certificates of participation. That's actually how we financed the existing City Hall building we're in today that was built in 1992. It's also how we finance the pier parking garage. So it's not something unusual. The city's done it over the years in order to finance various civic facilities. The total project cost under self-financing is about $111.5 million. The maximum annual lease payment would drop from $12.9 million annually to $8.1 million annually approximately. Total payments over 30 years would drop from $386 million to about $224 million. The rate of return would be better because you're going from private financing to traditional public financing, so it would drop to about 5%. And the savings over 2 years, if you look at the differential, is about $152 million. So I brought this forward because, like I said, I left the door open last year on purpose, right? We certainly wanted to lock in Roca if we wanted to do that, if we wanted them to take on the financing, but always in the back of my mind, although I didn't have time to pull it all together at the time, I knew that it would be cheaper because private financing versus traditional public financing, all day long, it's more affordable to go with the approach on the right. So again, savings of $152 million over 30 years, which allows us to contemplate and incorporate a lot of the additional project elements that I discussed earlier. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. McKenna.
Thank you, Suzette. When we approved the Master Development Agreement, there was a motion to include incentives after we had already negotiated the agreement and it had been approved. There was a motion to include incentives for the minority participation that Suzette talked about, as well as a survey of residents located within 3 miles of the project annually at the developer's cost. Obviously, we had already reached an agreement with the developer. So what the master project resolution is intended to do is to bring forward the additional project elements that you are willing to include in the project and the First Amendment to the Master Development Agreement. The First Amendment to the Master Development Agreement will incorporate whatever obligations the developer may have in connection with additional project elements that you approve, and will, and then will also include the First Amendment, approval of the First Amendment to the MDA. As for the survey, what we've determined since that time is that the city has the ability to do a city-initiated survey without having to involve the developer, and you can do it more often or less often depending on how you see as the project develops. So our intention is to circulate legal documents to you as early as the beginning of next week that will identify the additional project elements that you're interested in approving and the First Amendment to the MDA, and then we'll have an opportunity at the workshop to discuss them in more detail, and then again, of course, at the joint meeting on April 30th.
Okay. Next steps. So we have, I know it's a lot of meetings. We've had a lot of meetings previously, but we do have meetings upcoming on the downtown. It's such a large transformative project. We just want to give all of a lot of opportunity for input from the public, for commission discussion. So tonight we're here with the first joint meeting, April 7th. Then on April 15th, HOK will go out into the community. There are actually 2 dates in the Master Development Agreement where the architect is required to go out and engage the community as it relates to City Hall design and the parking deck design. So the first meeting will happen at the EPAT Larkin Center on April 15th. There's also another meeting scheduled on May 7th, if I jump ahead in the timeline there. On April 24th, we're looking at doing a joint workshop between the City Commission and CRA. We realized we went over a lot of information with you this evening. We realized there are a lot of questions on funding and how we're going to do the funding and how it works exactly and cash flows. The intention is to go over that in more detail with you at that workshop and providing you with information ahead of the workshop for you to better digest the information and come prepared with your questions on April 24th. Then on April 30th, there's another joint City Commission meeting. By then, the architect would have been at the Larkin Center. They would have gathered input from the community. So they're going to come back to you and kind of talk a little bit more of the input they've received. And also by then, they would have met with you on April 24th. At April 24th, you'll be able to engage the architect more as the City Commission. Obviously, they spoke to you about meeting with staff and departments over the last month to try to develop the programming in terms of office space, common areas, storage, et cetera. They'll be meeting with you to get a little bit more granular with the commission on the process at that point. And then finally, on May 14th is when we're asking for approval of any proposed master development agreement amendments relative to the additional project elements we mentioned this evening. Approval for the CRA bond documents for the infrastructure bonds, and then bringing forward self-financing mechanisms, so certificates of participation, the financing documents related to that to finance the civic buildings, which is what I'm recommending at this time. So again, lots of meetings, lots of opportunities for input and continued discussion as we move forward and proceed towards that May 14th date. And with that, that completes our presentation.
Very good. Okay. Very good. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. All right. A lot of information out there, but like you said, we've got a lot of meetings, and there have been a lot of meetings. But let's go ahead and open it up to the public. This is a public meeting. Please come forward. You don't need to raise your hands. Just please come forward and give your name and address at the microphone. Limit your comments to 3 minutes. This center microphone over here. Yes, just name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Patricia Correa. My address is 8 Bronte Avenue, Pompano. And I am looking at this this is the second meeting that I've been to. And so it's a great sales pitch, and it gives you all the good points. But with good points come bad points, and we're not really seeing any of what the bad points are. it seems like everything is already set. So it doesn't matter what the public says. They got contracts going and coming and so forth. Phil May mentioned that the Northwest District community is where all this is happening. That's District 4. Out of 5 districts, 95.5% of the taxes, according to WIN, go to the CRA. 95.5% of Pompano Beach taxes go to 19% of the acreage of Pompano Beach, because that's the Northwest District. The East District, which is also CRA, is 1% of the acreage of Pompano Beach. So all of Pompano Beach, 95.5% of everything that we pay is going into the Northwest District CRA, which I don't think is fair. And somehow, if you guys can, it would be nice to change that. And then, what was the last thing? I got a minute left. I know there was something else. So there was a sales pitch. Oh, the taxes. So Phil May says that, it brings down our taxes. Now, in speaking to Nguyen at the last meeting, the millage goes down, but our taxes continue to go up with all the other parts of the taxes, the schools and everything else. So the millage may go down, but our taxes go up. So in Pompano Beach, since our taxes are going up and 95.5% of those taxes go to the CRA, I'm seeing if you guys can determine how that can be changed. And I know you're shaking your head no, but those are WIN's numbers. Okay, that's all. Whoop, 34 seconds left.
Very good. But just for the record, Ms. Sybil, 95% of our taxes don't go to the CRA or the Northwest.
She's referring to the, within the district,
Okay.
the increment. is
Okay,
what goes into
not the
district,
overall.
but not citywide. No.
Gotcha. Next speaker.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Patricia Kind. I live at 8 Briney Avenue in Pompano Beach. I'm the director of the soup kitchen. I handle the clothing department, and all that you presented the last meeting I've been at to end this meeting is glorious and wonderful, but the city has a very big problem. I've been doing this for 15 years, and it reaches a point now that we have people living in their cars who come in for help, looking for assistance with work tags from Dollar Tree, Whole Foods, Walmarts. So it's not just the people you see standing on the corner looking for $1 or something to drink. I wish this city would put some funds aside. I know you have other things near the jungle there, but it's not adequate, because we've had to many times run out of food. Our numbers have increased 100 a day, and it's not going to get better. It has to be addressed. All this money, the millions I see spending, I mean, when I get a donation of $500 or $30, I'm thrilled to death that I could help to buy food to fill in the pantry. So I just wish to bring attention to it and don't ignore the issue, because it's not going to get better, it's getting worse. It's getting worse, and you can't ignore it. You really can't ignore it. Because I'll tell you something, in Old Town that you're addressing now, last Christmas I had an overabundance of food. I packed up some hot plates of food and went to the storefronts, and I had enough food to feed those people who were sitting trying to keep warm on that Christmas morning. So please, have it in your hearts. You say you do have a facility, but apparently it's not enough. It's inadequate. And you have to really think from your heart and think of the people. They're human beings just like you and me. And in an instant, our lives can change just like they do. And also, as I said, they're working people now, living in their cars. They can't afford the rents, so they're living in their cars. Keep that in your heart and don't forget about it, because I don't. I live with it every week, and I have been doing it for 15 years, and I just need help. We need help. We definitely need help. We need assistance.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'll tell you something. Before I came up here, I prayed to God that I would have the right words to say, to touch hearts in this room and on this dais. And I mean it. I live this every week, and it breaks my heart. People want to get out of this cycle, but they're not afforded the opportunity. So think about that. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if I could ask you to please hold your applause so we can keep the meeting moving. Thank you. Next speaker.
Thank you. My name is Tundra King, 124 Northwest 15th Street, and I concur with the last speaker. I heard the young lady get up here earlier and say something about us being fiscally responsible. My mom is here. My dad passed a few years ago, and one thing he taught his 7 girls was when you have a car, no matter how expensive or if the car is not so expensive, usually he started us off with a Toyota, you must take care of it. You must maintain the oil, you must keep it clean, you must take it for service, because if you don't take care of that preventive care, that car won't be any good for you, and it'll run down a lot faster if you had put in a little time and a little maintenance into that car. I believe that 15 years ago, Mr. DiGiorno talked about, I think that's when this project kind of started. I believe it was at that time that we kind of gave up on that car. And we started just kind of patching it up, the city, I'm referring to the city, that we kind of just start patching it up, and we didn't give it our best. We didn't take it for those services, those Schedule A, B, C services that I used to get when I had a Mercedes. If I didn't take those services, I knew my car would tell me right away. And we came and we told you all that some things weren't right in this city, and it's like we were ignored. For example, I only have a minute and 49 cents left. Our schools, Markham is still, our students there are still eating lunch at their desk. That's unacceptable. That's on this dais, to go to the school board to make sure our kids are getting the best schooling and education they can get, and right now they are not. A lot of our schools in the Northwest are really, really in poor conditions. We have some great principals, we have great teachers, but they don't have the resources. I put that on this dais because you should be raising noise and making a scene at some of these school board meetings to say we will not take less for our schools in Pompano, and we haven't done that in the Northwest. The next thing is some activities for our seniors. We can do so much more. They need their homes repaired, and they don't have the money, and it's sad. It's sad people come to our school and they ask us for help every day. Those things, we didn't do the maintenance properly, and so a lot of our seniors are being ignored. A lot of our small businesses, about 60% of the businesses, I'm sure in the city, are small businesses, mom-pop type operations. We're giving away all this money. We're saying we're going to do it now on the back end, but we should have been doing that these last 10 or 15 years. Now we let the city run down, and now all of a sudden we're going to buy up all this property, and we're going to, Rocal Point's going to come save the day. That's not fair to them, and it certainly hasn't been fair to us. Affordable housing. In this project, it says there's going to be luxury apartments. We don't need market rate, because most of the people in that area, the median income is about $50,000. How are they going to afford $3,000 for rent? So I think we haven't done our due diligence for preventive maintenance, and we're seeing it now. It's not come along and saved the day. We should have been getting this treatment 10 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening. Same family, one of those 7 girls. Jackie Moreland, 1526 Northwest 7th Lane. Y'all know me, I come as much as I can. And I tend to repeat myself with the things that I desire for my community. But I saw all the beautiful pictures and all the wonderful things they said and how you've laid it out, and it's really supposed to be beautiful. I don't trust any of it, because I come and I ask for things so far less. And it took 3 months to just get some pictures changed off the wall that was not a correct representation of the history of Pompano. But I'm supposed to believe that we're going to get an E.Pat Larkin Center that looks like that, when the Senior Citizen Center that we have was supposed to be bigger and larger and better than what it is, and the seniors could barely get in there. So we're supposed to believe that you're going to tear down E.Pat Larkins and give us that. I'd like to call that phase 2 of E.Pat Larkins and keep what we have and remodel that what we have and give us that too. There are other centers in cities or sections that have more than one community center in it. So let that be brand new and build that and remodel the one, and we can have 2 instead of the 1. It's so much that you all are saying that you're going to do. And I just don't trust that it's going to happen, because I come up here and the little things that we vote for now is 3 and 3 is voted down, or at least commissioner, my district has someone to kind of see her vision and vote and try to get the things that we want in our community. It's a beautiful project, but do I trust it for the Northwest section? No, because as my sister said, these are things that should have been done a long time ago. And at the onset of this project, and you all said that you do like surveys, I live in the community. I can walk from my house to there. I've never gotten anything in the mail about a survey and asking this or asking that about this project. So who are you consulting with that lives there? See, some of you pass through the Northwest section. I live, breathe, sleep, and eat it there. I work there. I live there. I go to church there. That's my community. So if you're going to ask us about our community, ask us. My mom is 92 years old, and we live in that community. There are other citizens too. Am I for it? No. Why? Because I don't believe that it's going to happen. Because you got it off the ground, you did all of this without our consent and without our input. Maybe some you did, maybe some you didn't, but include the people that's going to be affected by that. There are people that are going to lose their homes and how we get to work and how we travel and how we go to church and how we go to the grocery store. All that's going to be affected. And you all are making the decisions without us. We have good sense, and we have good thinking, and we should be a part of everything that's going down in our community. And I have 25 seconds left, so I just want to make sure. And again, about our schools, I'm an educator of 41 years. I would love to see $6 million come into the Northwest section of Pompano. That would be beautiful. Thanks.
Thank you. Next speaker. Please come forward.
Hi, Michael Skaversky, 1630 Southwest 5th Avenue. I don't have much to say because the women all made terrific points, and I agree with what they have to say. But one thing I do have to say to Commissioner Perkins, remember when I ran years ago, Tundra brought it up, cleaning up the Northwest area, I was going to get the homeless working, remember that? Instead, we have some community court where I don't know what they're doing, but all of you just think it's terrific. As for this job, ordeal, why is it you're doing such a terrific sales pitch nonstop over and over and over all over the place when it hasn't even been voted on? What if it goes 3-3? Then what happens? Then all of this is just kaput, right? This sales pitch was just a total waste of time because we might just have 3 people up here that are against it. I don't understand why they're selling this all over the place. It's almost like with the bond. You went all over the place with the bond, saying it was this, 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 and this. It's the same thing. I don't understand it. As for this project, where they keep saying City Hall is falling apart, this and that, look at this floor. It's spotless. Look at this building. It's in perfect condition. Everything in here is beautiful. But you want to tear it down for what? I can tell you why you want to tear it down. It's called monstrous campaign donations. That's about it. This building is perfect. This is one of the nicest buildings. They can scream all you want. This is one of the nicest buildings I've ever been in for a city. It's gorgeous. I got news for you. We have no room. Then get rid of all these spots where it says reserve, reserve, reserve. Get rid of them. We don't need all those reserve spots. Then we'll have people that could park here. And I've said it over and over and again. If we need extra room, we can use the Charlotte Berry building. But this building is beautiful. So is that building. It's 40 years old. There's nothing wrong with it. We don't need another city hall, and we don't need a new Pat Larkins. I don't live in that area, but I know the people that live there want Pat Larkins to stay how it is, so leave it how it is. One other thing. You think you're going to redo this whole street. The only person that is ever on that block in this room besides her would be me. When you go down the side streets is where they deal all the dope. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You can talk all you want.
No, you can't.
What are you going to do? You're going to line police all over the place all of a sudden. Guess what? Maybe you should put police out there now and bust the dope addicts, and then we won't have as many problems over there. Have you ever considered that? Probably not.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Next speaker. Please come forward. Don't be shy. Come on.
Teresa Rowe from 111 Briney Avenue. I'm only a snowbird here, but I thought I would like to come in to tell you my observation. All this beautiful development is great, but people are going to look for good schools, people with families, and it's worthwhile investing in your current school systems. That you're as good as your weakest link. You got to educate the kids so they can achieve those architectural jobs and engineering, and now you have to invest in your students and in your community. The homeless. I mean, I come here a few months and there's homeless everywhere. They don't bother me. It's fine. It's a great place to be homeless. But on the other hand, why not those corporations that are making millions, billions out of all this, invest in a shelter, invest in your community, force more investment, not 6 million or 500,000 that they are talking about.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, let her speak. Her time's running out. We can't hear her.
Yeah, so it's really, it's so worth it. It's such a beautiful area, and you don't want to ruin it with all the overdevelopment. You cannot just displace people because you want to build something luxurious. You have to accommodate them and have affordable housing. And that's the only way this will survive, or you're going to have a bunch of empty buildings. If you don't invest in your community, the people around it who made it what it is, who stood by you all these years, and you're as good as your weakest link. And that's when we moved, we went to see what are the good school systems. My son didn't stay here. The school systems are not so good, you know, and it's unfortunate. And I think that's, you got these corporations, they should put money, you know, for the people that they're trying to kick out, and they shouldn't be allowed to do that. That's
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Next speaker.
Good evening, David Hall, 290 Southeast 8th Court. I think it's Tommy DiGiorgio, is that correct, how you say that? I've listened to him speak about this project and many other projects. Commissioner Fournier had him at her district meeting a few months ago, and he nailed it out of the park with what's happening in our city, the investment in the infrastructure, all the things that are happening. And it's amazing to listen to hear him talk, and nobody at her community meeting had anything to say or even question. Some people tried to, but it was unsuccessful. And there may be people who know as much as him, maybe, but nobody knows more than Tommy when you're talking about economic opportunity development and things happening in the city and the county. So kudos, and I appreciate your presentations. If you've been on the commission longer than 5 months and you don't live in District 4, so that's just 3 of you, and you oppose this plan because you think it's bland, without having met other developers, architects, engineers to design a bold, futuristic, sustainable, and tech-forward project with a financial commitment close to $2 billion in your hand for city staff to review, you don't have the right to oppose this plan. Everything that's been done in the northwest section of Pompano to this point has been tinkering at the margins and lip service. Tinkering and lip service has kept too many people who live in this section immersed in despair, blight, death, and abject poverty. BSO's SWAT team and SID teams, working in conjunction with Pompano Beach's crime suppression team, conduct more operations in our city than any other city in Broward County, probably any 2 or 3 cities combined. I'd be willing to bet that 70+% of Pompano Beach's crime suppression team operations happen in the northwest section of Pompano Beach. That's money and resources that the other districts of this city in Pompano are forced to provide to the detriment to the city at whole. When one area of Pompano suffers and it isn't up to par, all areas of Pompano suffer and they're not up to par. And this isn't a knock on the area of Pompano Beach, in that area of Pompano Beach, nor the people that live there. It's a call out of the failures of having done nothing in generations to raise up the people living in this area, because all we've done is tinker along the margins and paid these folks lip service. Time for tinkering and lip service to end. Numerous community meetings have been had, numerous informational pieces have been presented to the public, even extra Q&A sessions last week hosted by Commissioner Perkins, kudos, Commissioner, for doing that, was well attended. No question was left unanswered. The only remaining sticking point seems to be regarding the EPAT Larkin Center. While I don't know the former mayor personally, I asked a few acquaintances from the district about him. What they told me was he was a man of action, caring, progress. Mr. Larkin sounds like someone who would support making the area he lived in and his life represented better. Better for the next generation to come back after graduating college to live, work, and invest in. An area that can be free from blight, suffering, and death that we've seen for far too long. To me, our former mayor sounds like a visionary who cared for the city and his neighborhood, and doesn't sound like a static address in a building where it sits today. Finally, the lies and innuendo and half-truths about the financial strength of the city must end.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. I've got to cut you off.
You got it.
Next speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, please. No clapping. Thank you.
Robert Kinchin, 673 Northwest 20th Court, Pompano Beach, Florida. I want to talk just a little bit about the homeless and the drug condition that we have over here. We have in our city what is called rehabilitation centers. Every time the insurance run out on the people that is in those rehabilitation centers, they bring them from the east side over to the northwest side and they drop them off. And that's why we have this problem with all of these people hanging around in the park there and on the front street there. If we could do something about the insurance companies and all of those people that have these centers, let them know when those people times is up, when the money runs out, don't bring them over here so you can get them back in there and recycle them again so that you could get more money and then bring them and put them back in our area again. As the lady said there from the soup kitchen, I deal with it every day right here on MLK. Every Sunday we have hundreds of people line up to eat and get clothes twice a month. A lot of them don't want to be out there. But because the care run out, there was nothing in place to get them restarted again in life. They end up right back where they started from.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Good evening. Bennett Brooks, 3210 Northeast 5th, and my wife and I have been here for about 16 years. I have my engineering business here. I've been an engineer for about 50 years, building stuff. And I must say, congratulations to the city staff, the CRA, and everybody who worked to put this together, this proposal. I think it's fabulous. I'm excited about it. I think it's going to address all the things that the people who have just spoken have talked about, because we need to take care of our city, we need to manage it, we need to grow it, and we need to improve it. Otherwise, nothing gets improved. So it's a win-win. I mean, this team has put together a beautiful project. I had nothing to do with it. I've just watched it a few times, and I said, wow, they've done their homework. Okay, so they've done their homework, they put this together, it's a plan, it's a win-win for everybody. As an engineer, do I want to throw $50 million at an old building, or would I spend $111 on a whole new project and then get $2 billion back? I mean, it just makes sense. And then you have all that resources that you can address all these other programs. You know, I remember the beach when there was nothing over there, and we had a parking lot that had an old fire station and a smelly library. I mean, it was smelly, okay? And so now look what we have. I mean, the CRA did a fabulous job, and the return on investment was incredible, and we have all kinds of things going on down there. We have the Jazz Festival, we have all kinds of arts. People are coming in droves, they're spending money, and it's improving the city. Our tax base is going up so we can do all these programs. We have all the arts, the entertainment, the education. Yes, I'm sure we could put more into education, and that's how you allocate your funds, and you'll figure that out, and how to address all the other social problems. But we need development like this. It's going to help the people in that area. It's going to help the people all across our city. It's going to reduce our taxes individually, because our property value is going to go way up. So the tax, and so businesses will pay for all of these programs. I think it's fabulous. I want to congratulate everybody who's done everything on this so far, and I hope that you as a commission will approve this project.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next speaker.
Hi, Heather Gilchrist, 1341 Southeast 9th Avenue. I attended one of the meetings last week, and I agree there are a lot of things to like about this project. There absolutely are. There are also a lot of questions that I have that were absolutely not answered and not even asked. None of these meetings, or at least the one I attended, did not provide any opportunity for public questions. So presenting these meetings as this amazing opportunity for the public to have its questions answered and no one asked anything, it's incredibly misleading to say that. That's not to say that the project is terrible. That is not my stance at all. But I don't know if you all understand what an optics problem the commission really has. The way this is being presented as a done deal, before it's been voted on, before the public has had an opportunity to ask questions, it's leaving a really sour taste in my mouth as a resident. And if the project is as phenomenal as these marketing efforts present it to be, convince the public of that. Take the time to convince us that it is the right move. Stop cramming it down our throats. And if the CRA has clearly done a great job with several of its investments. The beach project is overwhelmingly a success. But pitching this as some financial coup when we still can't afford to pave our streets or put cameras in public parks or pay for more policing, where is all of this CRA money that is allegedly being raised? Where is it going if it's not going to the residents? I think there is absolutely a value to EDC and CRA investments. I used to live in New York City. I worked closely with the NYC EDC at that time, and I've seen what investing in the city and future-looking investments can do. I absolutely support that kind of thing. But the equilibrium that the city is currently pursuing between future-facing investments and the absolute necessity of maintenance, infrastructure maintenance, that equilibrium is way off, and I want to know why. Because it does not look good. You have an optics problem that you need to solve, and you need to explain why we are spending all this money on consultants and developments and projects that are forward-facing when we can't pave our roads or police our parks.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker.
Good evening. Lauren McGee Weiss, 2401 Southeast 7th Drive. Hello to the Commission. Awesome project presentation. Not as a response to the questions from the person speaking before me, but they just showed us. That was, when I first saw this project, the one thing I said was the retail really needs some sort of economic driver. By moving City Hall to the place that they're suggesting and putting some sort of headquarters on the west side facing 95, makes a lot more sense in my mind. I've been doing commercial real estate for 15 years in development. And when you look at our neighbor to the north, Deerfield, what do you see when you get off 95? You see GeoCore, you see Toyota headquarters, Jim and Jan Moran Foundation, beautiful buildings. They're all filled. It's not like we have an office surplus in Pompano. We barely have any office space. When you have office spaces, you create daytime employment population. When you have daytime employment population, you have people to fill the restaurants and the local businesses to sell their products and make their sales. This project, very well done in my opinion, to Roca Point and to Danielle, and I forgot the other names, I'm sorry. But the one thing I would say that if I could give one suggestion is this area I think is in dire need of grocery store. Now I know that presents a ton of problems when it comes to parking and the requirement for parking ratios. Maybe because this is a downtown CRA district, they can alleviate some of those parking. But this is what I'd consider one of the food deserts that should be addressed. And I think that in addition to the headquarter idea being placed up to 95, really makes this plan a lot more cohesive. And I think that the grocery would help the community in this area tremendously as well. That's it.
Very good. Thank you for that. Next speaker.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioner. Dominic Lewis, 400 Northeast 2nd Street. Thanks for having this meeting for us to give some input and learn a little bit more about this downtown. I moved here 2008 from California, grew up in Miami. And one stark thing that stood out to me since 2008, was the divide of the railroad tracks. Pompano has a perspective through the east side of town, and Pompano has a story on the west side of town. And someone this evening mentioned about numbers, and I thought that was interesting because I'm a numbers guy. And they said, well, 20%, 80% of the city's taxes is being concentrated in 20% of this project. And I think Mayor rebutted that with saying, well, that's not true. But regardless of where the numbers lie, what I find very interesting is that the city currently is made up of approximately 41% non-whites, Hispanics. Blacks and African Americans, 28%. Hispanic, 23.8%. And when you think about this project, and those who are listening to me right now, you may be wondering, well, am I for or against this? And I just want to make clear, I'm the last person that would be ever against any sort of development. I just want to point out that this project is going to focus on a concentration where there's higher blacks throughout the city. But when you look at what's happening tonight, you have 100% of those people from a leadership perspective of that city not part of that design, not embedded and part of the team at Rocal Point Partners. And again, I'm not against it. If anything, I'm for development. I just hope that everyone on this dais take into consideration what development looks like to the people and the leadership and the legacy of the people that sit down in that Northwest area. So they could really feel that they're part of this new downtown. As it stands right now, it doesn't perceive like it's coming from the community. You want people that's in the neighborhood to share their perspective and what they see their city is going to look like in the future.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please come forward.
Good evening, Chuck Chivinetti, 711 Northeast 9th Avenue in Pompano Beach. Unlike many folks here in the room, me and my partner are relatively new. We purchased about 2 years ago. We did not know a lot about Pompano Beach. We were in Fort Lauderdale. We were looking to buy a home. We drove here. We saw a lot of activity going on, the beach area, but we also saw a lot of pride. And I see pride in the sense of when you drive through every neighborhood, there's a sign that says, like in my neighborhood, it says Old Pompano, but there's a sign for Crest Haven, et cetera. You go through, and I said, that's interesting. People have an idea of an identity. I'm very much for it, as is my partner, for this project, because it does add to the community. The one thing I have is a somewhat sticking point, and I brought it up in one of the meetings that we had over by the amphitheater there in the community center, is the positioning of City Hall. Now, I understand through the last meeting I attended and today, City Hall, our current City Hall has problems, and it needs to be fixed or replaced is probably economically correct. Centering it at the end of this project is a visual impairment to the rest of the community across the railroad tracks. Granted, nobody's running across Dixie Highway or the railroad tracks to get to Old Town, but if you stand on that greenway and you look to the east, you're gonna see a building. Sorry, folks, I know you all work in it. It's not open 2 days a week, and it's not open 10 to 12 hours a day. I don't understand the concept that City Hall is going to bring people here. People are coming here for a purpose to do. We should be doing more online. One of the pictures showed a lot of storage of boxes of paper. We should be digitizing that and moving that away. I worked with a business that lost their paper in the World Trade Center collapse, and it wasn't so much that they didn't have it digitized. They still had the paper. They had financial issues out in the world of people's data being lost and being out to the public, so they had to deal with that. So I just ask to think about City Hall being part of the downtown, because Old Town, as I understand it from history in this city, was the downtown, was part of the downtown. And City Hall probably should be part of the downtown. But position it so that in sometime in the future, if we can figure a way to get across Dixie Highway and the railroad tracks, we can incorporate things. Too often I've seen, like I just said before, we've seen a lot of progress. We really like it, but it's segmented. We're a unified group. We all have our unity. We all have our pride of our neighborhood. Let's make it all part of the town so that it's, I don't see the necessary for City Hall to be so prominent in that space. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker. Public input.
Good evening. My name's Paul Presti. My address, 2581 Southeast 13th. Graduated Pompano High a number of years ago. You, as the attending thought process for Pompano, you've got a lot to consider, because I'm a little bit surprised that this is a great expenditure of money. Who would not be involved with put 110 and get back 2 billion? So obviously this is a wonderful, wonderful project. But the problem is that I know Hammondville, Martin Luther King, since I was 8 years old. And you've got some important people who are crying out, hear what we are saying. So to me, this is looking like a project that's going to cost 110 or 20 billion, or excuse me, 120 million to get back 112, be exact, to get back 2 billion. So it's a wonderful, enticing project. But the problem is, I would really attend to the people who live in that area first before I would try to consider trying to clean that up for 112 million, and you don't get the success in the future. So if there are 3 commissioners that are thinking to oppose it, 3 commissioners that are thinking for it, that's a tough battle for you all to consider. But I would suggest getting in touch with the people who live in that area, because they'll give you the best insight, and clean it up first, then make this. But you have to be a little more ambitious in your scope. You can't just figure from Dixie to 95, and we're going to make this whole thing work. What made Pompano great is Pompano Beach. The beach is what made it great. You could put a lot of money into this deal here and have a total flop. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Hi, Melissa Lilly, Melissa Hess, excuse me, 551 Southeast 13th Court. I'm relatively new to Pompano Beach as well. I've only been here for 4 years, but I've been a native of South Florida my whole life. A big part of why we moved here was we loved to see what was happening. Everybody knows Pompano Beach, Bayou and A has been amazing. The problem is that it's so amazing, it's overpopulated. As a person in this city that just moved here, I'm gonna be the family that's here for the next 40, 50 years if I'm healthy and lucky. We need more than just one space, and I do agree that that area needs to be heard, and I'm 100% for that. I think putting in the money to get the return, $2 billion estimated, it's clear right now the city does, I'm sure, doing a great job trying to allocate whatever funds they can to help with schools, with poverty. It does seem like $2 billion would definitely help them, as well as help the families who've come here that want places to go to. There's so many times that I have to leave this city to go to an area to walk around with my kids. There's really no space for us to enjoy. And granted, the City Hall is great. I'm sure a lot of people care about that. I care about that area to be in, the restaurants to go to, the money that it's gonna create for our city, instead of me going somewhere else and spending my money. Additionally, when I compare this to other places like Dania Point, Meisner Park, I think they've done a really good job at trying to incorporate City Hall into it, trying to incorporate historical references. I don't know much about the EPAT learning, but I want to now. Different things where other cities have just put up hotels and restaurants and called it a day. So I do think that the effort that they're trying to be a little more well-rounded and think about the community is also there. So I do want to call that out. And again, I think that's it. I don't really have much more to say, so thank you for your time.
Thank you, appreciate it. Next speaker. please come forward. Are there any other public speakers that want to come forward? Otherwise, this will be our last speaker. Okay, please come forward. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Carla Coleman. I live at 2631 Northeast 23rd Street. Most of you have heard individually from me about this project, of which I am very supportive. It's been a long road. I'm a 42-year resident of Pompano Beach. And so I remember when there was an east side and a west side, and it is so nice today to see us talking about projects all over the city and coming together. I just want to take issue with a couple of things that have been said tonight. One is I attended 2 of the 5, community meetings. I thought they were extremely informative. I took the time after the presentations to sit at some of those tables to both listen and ask questions of particular things, topics. There was a city hall table, there was a jobs table, there was a financing table. If you had questions, there were opportunities to talk one-on-one with folks and get them answered. That's very different than an open mic night. And it's an opportunity to get your specific questions answered. So thank you for doing that. Secondly, I've heard a lot of CRA versus the city. The city is the CRA. The CRA is simply a financing mechanism to get to those ends. By using tax increment financing, you're able to create value that's not on the backs of your general tax bills. It is simply another mechanism in your toolbox. Don't think of it us against them, it's us. So there's a lot of misinformation out there going around about, oh, his taxes, my taxes. Take the time to learn about it. But it's simply another tool in the city's toolbox to get to this great opportunity to do a project like this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening. I'm Stephen Martin, 504 Northwest 9th Avenue. Me and my wife, we recently moved to Pompano, but I grew up in a neighborhood in Miami that has a very similar history to Pompano, and I saw development similar to this happen, and I lost my community. I came from a community, I don't like how people keep pointing this way to refer to the people who live in the Northwest District. I live in the Northwest District as well. I walk my dog every day. When I talk to my neighbors, none of them know about this. So when you, like someone mentioned, they hear about surveys, I survey my community and they don't know about this. So that's a little alarming. And then when I see things that say workforce housing, that's a term that I fear, because in my community, they promise workforce housing, but when you actually read and understand what workforce housing means, it doesn't help the community that's there, because they don't fall into the workforce. They are still outpriced. They can't afford to live in what was deemed workforce housing that was built in our community. So we watched it grow, watched it be built, and we watched other people come into our community, and we lost our community. And now this is the community that I'm gonna be raising my son in. And I want the community to be something that like he can feel an attachment to. I like being in a community where my neighbors look like me. I will want my son to be able to have that. I would love for a development like this to happen. It's in walking distance from where I live, but like a lot of people are saying, it doesn't feel like it will benefit the people that are actually in that district right now. And the biggest concern is this development will happen. People who live in that community, their taxes will raise, and they will no longer be able to afford to live in their community. Then you're gonna have developers that are gonna come. I get calls every day we own property in the Coconut Grove area in Miami. I get calls every day, cash offers for my grandmother's house. We can afford to not take those offers, but there's people that when somebody offers you $700,000 for your mother's property, you can't help but not take it, and they pretty much push the entire community out. And with this development, how are we gonna prevent that from happening? Like, how do we keep the community that's there? How do we keep like the traditions? How do we keep the culture? Because a beautiful building doesn't have culture. cement and glass. Where's the soul? And I just want the people who are involved in this to think about that. And I need to connect with the people of my community now to understand like how we're going to combat that. The development would be great, but it has to actually thoroughly like consider what's going to happen 10, 15 years down the line. Yes, it'll bring money to the community, but the community will be a completely different people. So who did you help? And that's what I have to say.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Next speaker, Mr. Skversky, I'm going to ask you to please sit down. Thank you, sir. I'm sitting. Thank you. Next speaker, go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Don Walker, 621 Northwest 15th Manor. To start off, I grew up in Pompano Beach, Sanders Park. Graduated from Blanche Ely. I've been listening to, the presentations here. Thank you, Beverly Perkins, for the presentations at the Pat U. Larkins Center, or Pat Larkins. Honestly, I'm nervous. I believe the development will be good for the city. Of course, optimistic about it, but just listening to the concerns and seeing, past projects that, we tried to get done within our community, I'm just nervous. Of course, I'm for it. I'm for innovation. I'm for bringing forth ideas. I'm for education. I went to, like I said, graduated from Blanche Ely, went to a HBCU, graduated from there in the architecture field, working, trying to get my license as an architect. I work with developers all the time. I have a good feeling about Phil. I met him, I talked to him, I trust him. But I'm just nervous, to be honest with you. But I'm optimistic. I believe in it. I think the Pat Larkins Center will create opportunities for us. I believe that, you just can't put it in everyone's hands like the commissioners here. It's definitely up to us to, be a part, make an impact in our own community. It's like giving the keys to, someone else and asking them to, save us. No, it's up to us, to be honest with you. Like I said, I went to HBCU. I'm out here actually working, trying to do the right thing, help my community, but, like I said, it's up to us to be a part of this. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Penny Mitchell, 590 Northwest 18th Avenue. I too am nervous. $2 billion is a lot of money. My main concern is our Pat Larkins building. That's our history. That's a gentleman that stood for us when I wasn't even born. He was one that believed in my city. So when I see renditions of how the layouts are going to be presented, where Pat Larkins could be relocated, I noticed an area that is across the street on MLK. Not in the corridor of Dixie, I-95, Atlantic Boulevard, and MLK, but it's on the opposite side of MLK. The renditions of it is beautiful. I too can't see that, but that's a different story. My concern is where Pat Larkins is located, he walked through those doors. He saw that building dedicated to him. So for us to move it across the street and not be part of the new corridor, I don't like that at all. It's almost like taking a second seat in the bus. If we cannot be a part of the $2 billion corridor that's creating on our land, I'm offended by that. So I hope the commissioners consider that and make sure we are in a prominent area in this development and not across the street where everything else is going on. And that's what makes me nervous. Bringing this whole group together revitalizing the downtown area, I'm for it. I'm for it. But like many times before, we have these billion-dollar companies come in, and they'll tell us one thing, they'll say how it's gonna look, and then something is gonna go wrong, and it doesn't always go that way. And I need guaranteed from this council that our Pat Larkins building will be prominent in this development. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Next speaker.
Hi, my name is Casey Sellington. I live at 111 North Pompano Beach Boulevard in Pompano Beach. There's a couple of things that were really glaring to me. These are astronomical numbers, but we've had some things change in our country. Basically, huge tariffs that have gone into place. Do these numbers represent what those tariffs are going to do to the cost of construction? And I haven't seen anything about traffic engineer report. What's this going to do to the traffic in our area? I mean, we are way overbuilt here. I mean, it takes sometimes 40 minutes to get over the bridge. So those are the questions I have. And are those numbers considering the tariffs? No, I don't think they are. And they're astronomical. And that's all I have to say.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker. Further input from the public. Going once, twice. Public input is closed. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. All right, at this point in time, we'll go ahead and open it up for commissioner comments, questions, concerns. Who wants Commissioner Fessick?
I only have one concern, Ms. Sybil. The April 24th date, when was that chosen?
So I know we've been working at, Audrey's been contacting all the commissioners. So today was when we discussed that date. I do realize you're not available. We can arrange to meet with you one-on-one with the architects and also the group to go over all of those issues. But we're really having a hard time finding a date prior to April 30th to have the workshop.
She gave me two dates, April 23rd or 24th, and I gave her back the 21st or 22nd. So I'd really like to be a part of that conversation with the community. I went to one of the meetings after Broward Days was over, and I was able to attend at the Charlotte Berry Center. But I feel that it is important for me to be involved with the community and involved with the architects to fully be a part of those decision-making processes and be part of the conversation. So, thank you.
Very good. For the Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to say thank you to all the residents who came out to the roundtables and out here tonight to give us your feedback and thoughts. It's really important to hear from the community, so thank you. There's a lot to unpack here, and it's not all going to happen tonight, obviously, but I do have some questions and some thoughts. It is easy to look at pretty renderings and say, oh, I want that, but life rarely materializes like the pictures. And we've seen that at Atlantic and Dixie, a similar project that was extremely unpopular but stuffed down the throat of residents at using the same marketing tools that we're using now for the downtown to send out renderings of people walking and no traffic and this is why you want this, and they didn't want it. So there's a history of the city doing things like, and the CRA doing projects like this without really listening to the people. And I understand that there were a lot of meetings and they're willing to answer questions, but real engagement isn't answering your questions. It's giving you options, different choices. Would you want this? Do you want this? It's more interactive, and there's an opportunity for real participation, which is not what we've experienced with the outreach. It's a massive sales effort on a project that is effectively, designed by someone else and done. So I find that part of it quite frustrating. There are a couple things I heard tonight. One thing I need to clarify the record on quickly is I heard someone say that Newen promised a millage rate decrease. Is that, can you just clarify that you would not have done that at a meeting?
No. I was asked, why did our taxes go up? And I said, there's a lot of taxing authorities on your bill. In fact, the city did decrease their millage rate, but your overall taxes is made up of more than just the city.
Okay, thank you, because I would think that, yeah, you promising that that this project is going to reduce the millage rate might be a little bit out of line and out of character. So I have questions about the risk and the different obligations here, and I want to go through it quickly to be clear. So I'm going to ask a few questions, and it's simple. The answer is either the people or Roca Point. So who is paying for all the land that we're acquiring now?
The CRE.
The people.
The CRE.
But that's the people. That's our tax dollars. It's the people or Roca. Okay. Who is floating a bond to pay for all of the infrastructure?
The CRE.
The people. Okay. Who is contributing all of the land to the deal?
Well,
City and
contributing in terms of we're selling it and we're getting sales proceeds for the land, so there's a return.
Eventually, but who has paid for all this land to accumulate it over the last couple decades?
The CRE.
The people. Okay. Who is paying the master developer over $2 million a year right now for a developer fee?
We are, yes.
People.
The city and the CRE, as contractually obligated to do so.
Who is going to pay the 8 or 13 million, whatever it comes out to a year, depends on how we finance it, for the new city hall and civic complex in the civic buildings?
The downtown project will. And all the revenues it generates.
But the timing of it, well, we could talk about the timing. I've asked that question and I don't have it.
Certainly can, Vice Mayor, but I'll stick to what I'm saying. At the downtown, it's a self-sustaining project.
The day that we the day we issue the bonds or that we get the keys, it depends on how the financing works, we have to start paying that.
Absolutely, and I can explain to you, and that's why we're having the workshop, how we've structured this to ensure that we're managing that and that.
For sure. I've been asking for a meeting for over a week now on this, so
right. Okay.
Please don't.
I understand, but as I explained to you, the objective of tonight is to give the highlights. The objective of the workshop is to get into the weeds. That's the details of the deal.
Okay, who is committed to spending tens of millions of dollars on dedicated parking garages for commuter rail because of the land swap we had to do because of this deal?
You mean it's already programmed into our project, the downtown?
The people.
And I think we can all agree commuter rail is an extreme benefit for our residents. So if we're going to talk about the expenses, let's please talk about the other side of the equation.
Well, that's all. So all you and the team have done is talk about the sales pitch and the benefits. So I think it's important to hear the rest of the story.
That is inaccurate.
I'm not getting in a debate with you, Ms. Sybil, right now. I'm asking you a question.
Ms. Sybil, can you please speak up? Speak up a little louder. Thank you.
Absolutely will. Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm not here to get in a debate. I'm
I'll
just
wait till
trying to
you're
get some
finished and I can
answers,
respond
some
then.
questions
Okay.
answered. So when I see the $1.8 billion then that the developer is spending, where exactly are they spending that?
Throughout the project.
On what?
Where are they spending it? It's the developers. It could be Roca and it could be other developers that come to the table.
Right. So that is whenever these pads are sold and someone builds on it.
Correct.
That's what you're talking about. So again, I think it's a little misleading in here when we talk about the developer is spending $1.8 billion and we're spending $200 million, when really that 1.8 is going to come over time as we sell off these pads from a bunch of different developers. And this brings me to one of my other concerns, which is I drove by the Cordish project the other day, out by the casino. And I was so shocked and saddened by what is going on out there. That site is in disrepair. So to the city manager and the mayor on that one, we were promised a Crystal Lagoon, a hotel, a flagship Publix, brand new retail, a live entertainment district. And what we have is a monstrous new warehouse park with some little boxy apartment buildings going in. So this is why people don't always trust, and you don't always get what the pictures and the renderings look like.
Ladies and gentlemen, please. Ladies and gentlemen, please.
We cannot continue to do these deals that give away our city to outsiders. They sell you a dream, and they sell us pretty pictures, like we were sold Atlantic and Dixie, which doesn't work. We were sold the Cordish project, nothing's happening. But a lot of these people are focused on profits and not Pompano. So I won't let us do that here, personally. We will work and do what we need to get the right deal, but I will not let us sell Pompano and enter an agreement that is so lopsided and out of favor for the people of Pompano. So I have a couple other questions. So we went through what the people are committed to. So on top of that, I guess the people are all now going to be committed to paying for the minority inclusion part of it also, because the way it's being structured.
Can't do minority inclusion, it's illegal.
Right. Well, so I'm looking at another agreement a CRA did, an equal opportunity clause with liquidated damages and as a penalty if they don't meet certain targets. So other CRAs have just done this.
Well, I can't.
Wait, Ms. Sybil, so do you have a question, Vice Mayor?
Well, so I'm asking if now, since you're saying we can't legally do what I'm looking at that other people can legally do, that now the people have to pay for the minority inclusion part of it. That's at 1%. That'll be a discount to on the sales.
Right, we would add it to the project cost because there is a cost to do that.
So that's the people pay for that too in the end instead. So I think there's more work to be done on this, and how are we going to address the traffic nightmare around this? The roads are not functioning today, and when we add all of this density there, it's going to be unnavigable. Well, how are we going to deal with that? There's yet to be an answer for that. And I'm sure you get the same complaints I do lately about traffic. It is, the workarounds don't work anymore. The neighborhoods are full of cut-through traffic and people flying through them, and Atlantic westbound does not function. So we have got to try to fix that if we're going to add this kind of density here. And I'd like to see the 25% commitment. I like that, but I don't want it to sound aspirational. I want that to be real to affordable housing. I spend so much time on the phone with the county, with Fort Lauderdale commissioners, with everyone about homelessness, and the answer is housing. There is nowhere for people to go. So we have got to include that in here.
Ladies and gentlemen, please let the Vice Mayor continue. Thank you.
I think that might be all I have for today. I am very much looking forward to the discussion of the details and getting the questions that I have sent answered with the cash flows, because this brochure, I mean, the simple answer is you're showing revenue from new tax revenue in the future coming forward, but it's not even discounted. I said, what's the discount rate? Well, it's not discounted. So we're adding up money over time, cash flows, without discounting them back. And I'm sure most people in this room understand the difference of the value of $1 today than a value of $1 in 20 years. You want it today. You don't want it in 20 years. So we need to be a little, I think, more diligent with some of the numbers and how this is presented. When it says developer spends $1.8 billion and we keep hearing $2 billion, that's not exactly what it is. We are spending $200 million, and over time, some combination of developers will spend that. But I feel like everyone looks at Roca and is going, oh my God, the guys are great, they're putting in $1.8 billion, and that's not what's happening here. So that is my concerns with the sales pitch. Oh, and the other thing, who's paying for all of this and all the mailers, that's also the people of Pompano. So they are paying to have it marketed to them in a way that I think doesn't really characterize exactly what the deal is. That's all I have. Thank you.
Very good. Further commission discussion. Commissioner Fesick.
So I was going to just wait, and I sat quietly, but I took a fair amount of time going through each one of these exhibits that's provided in our backup. And so I'm just curious, I was surprised at this meeting, to be honest, that it was so much of what we saw at the previous public meetings, and that we weren't actually, I was expecting Hawk Architectural and Keith and Associates to come in and talk about these contracts. I wasn't expecting to see the same pretty pictures. So how much of this, and maybe this is for our attorneys, how much of these type of public meetings is for public notice or for marketing show rather than actual getting through these agreements, or is this just publicly posted in our backup or online so that we are in compliance?
Commissioner, we have a an executed agreement with ROCA, the Master Development Agreement, and that agreement provides for regular updates to the public and to the commission, and tonight is an update.
Okay, so why are these agreements in our backup then? Why didn't we get the presentation in our backup?
I'm not sure I follow your question. The presentation is the presentation tonight.
Okay, so Mr. Harrison or Ms. Sybil, why is it that in our backup we don't have the PowerPoint that's in the backup? Why don't we have the PowerPoint that you presented tonight, and instead we have 4 contracts?
So I would say that the majority of the items are covered in your backup in the agenda summary. We actually bullet pointed all the areas we were going to cover tonight.
That was
You're
not the-
right, we have discussed majority of these items at the past 6 meetings that we've had over the last 2 weeks. And I know you attended at the Burry Center, so you saw most of these items already, actually.
Right, but that didn't answer my question. My question is, when are we discussing the agreements that are in this attachment in our backup or online publicly posted versus why is it different?
So, I mean, you can certainly ask me a question on the agreement.
Sure, why is it different? Why is our backup here and the publicly posted information different than what we saw today?
That's, hold on, Ms. McKenna, you want to chime in on this?
I was just going to say that we provided the contracts because we thought that would be something the commission would like to see. We don't necessarily always attach PowerPoints to our agendas. Usually, we're working on a PowerPoint right up until the meeting time to fine-tune the slides and get ready, but there's no obligation to necessarily include the PowerPoint. It's now a public record and can easily be given to anyone who would like it.
Okay, I would like to request a copy of that. But I would like to just know that when we get into the weeds about other workshops, will we be discussing these contracts that are posted? Is this just posted for public disclosure or public? You understand what I'm saying, Mr. Berman?
Yeah, yes, the contracts have been executed. The development agreement has been executed June of 2024 after a lengthy public meeting and numerous public meetings that involved input from the public and the Northwest previously. This is just an update to show what has been accomplished since that time. That's all this meeting was intended. If there are other meetings and there are other subjects that will be covered at those meetings, you'll be provided information that's available prior to the meeting for you to review. Some of it may come as this did at this meeting, but it will always be available for your review. Copies will always be made available for you.
Perfect. Like I said, this was, as Ms. Sybil mentioned, the staff report, it talks about an update. It has no reference to the additional files that were attached. That's all. I'm done. Thank you.
Very good. Further commission discussion? Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple comments. As residents were talking, and I've thought about this in the past, just food for thought of constructing a pedestrian bridge that can go from the downtown to Old Town, so we can go across the railroad tracks and across the road, food for thought. And we talk about affordable housing and workforce housing. Well, there's a difference between workforce housing and low-income housing. And it sounds like we have a need that we need to do some more low-income housing projects, not to be part of the downtown, but to be part of community. So I think that's something that we also need to plant a seed for, and a developer seed to come and help us to do some low-income affordable housing projects, because we've got some very successful ones that have happened in Pompano Beach. And I too would like a copy of the PowerPoint, so I probably all of us, because I was writing like crazy with the notes, but great presentation, and I appreciate
sure
all the
commissioners have a
comments
coffee.
from the
Thank you.
residents.
Very good. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. I agree with you, Commissioner Smith, that we need workforce housing, but we also need affordable projects. And one of the struggles is, I think, some of our policy here with our map with circles on it. So the deconcentration of poverty makes it more difficult to put in some of these projects. So would love to work with you on that. I know that there's a developer who wants to do an affordable elderly project out by the senior center. Would make an awful lot of sense, but we can't. It's doesn't work because of our map of. Well, I mean, you can't really, that's the problem, the map. We need to look at that policy, I think, and start thinking about if these projects, these affordable projects, don't actually end up being slum and blight. They're brand new, they're nice, they're beautiful. Like I always say, there's PVC pipes, there's high ceilings, they're clean. It's, you know, the rest of us are living in homes built in the 50s. So we need to, I think, take a look at that and make sure that we're not preventing good projects from happening because of that policy. And then pedestrian bridges, I've been talking about that for years. So let me know when we have a plan for pedestrian bridges and making Atlantic Boulevard actually work for the people who live here. Thank you.
Very good. Further commission discussion? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned. I'm sorry, Commissioner Perkins?
Yes,
I thought we were done.
No. Well, I wanted to say real quick that I was really surprised with the update that was given today, and I'm really surprised to see 2 BSO officers standing in the back. I don't know whether that's we're supposed to be having a riot, or is there a reason they're not sitting over at the right where they normally sit? I didn't understand that.
They got all the,
Yes.
no, all the handouts or the posters.
Oh, that's why they're standing. Oh, okay, thank you. All right, so I've said to Suzette, and I've said to Phil over and over and over again that the community does not want the Pat Larkins building demolished. And I confirmed that on last Thursday or Friday after having a meeting with the community. And they are still moving forward with tearing down or demolishing that building. And that building means a lot to the Northwest community, and that is why they do not want it torn down, because of the late Pat Larkins. Mind you, I've said over and over again, our history is important to us. Your history is important to you. You pick up the McDougal house and you move it, that's your history. You pick up the McNabb house and move it, that's your history. But you want to demolish the Pat Larkins Center for one reason. That is because it interferes with your waterway. Pat Larkins has not interfered with anybody. So your waterway should be able to go around that building. We want the Pat Larkins building to remain standing where it is. We'd like for it to be remodeled, renovated, and brought up to code. That is what the community wants.
Ladies and gentlemen, please let the commissioner speak.
We've said that over and over again. And myself and a team submitted you a proposal last March or April. And you've taken this proposal and picked out what you wanted, such as a wall, walkway, and just a monument. And all of these things that we wanted in this project, you've placed them all in the Pat Larkins building. Whereas we all know the whole entire 75 acres was taken from the black community. Their homes, I'm a witness. Yes, in the 80s and 90s, I can tell you some stories how people's homes were taken in that 75 acres. I remember. So we know those homes were taken through eminent domain. After that stopped, then they were taken by code enforcement. And then the businesses were taken. So we don't have much history on that land. But you want to tear down the Pat Larkins Center. And then I'm finding out a lot of stuff like you all do. So now you want to change the site plan. So now we're going to place City Hall on the corner of Dixie and Atlantic. And now we want to move the Pat Larkins Center across the street, away from the project. This city has a history of just not listening to the people. And it starts with the leader. If you don't do anything else, if it wasn't for the residents, you wouldn't have a job. But this project, like some lady walked up and said, is presented to us as a done deal. I found out about the project, people had been hired, people had started, they were getting paid. All of this was put together before I was informed so that I can tell my community. 2 stores that you bought, Saxon Wall, and what we call the 2 o'clock store. You all didn't reveal that. A business owner told me that CRA bought it in my district. Now that I revealed it, now you want to bring it out and say we're helping the community because we bought those 2 stores. Yet and still, this project, as I've said before, again and again, it does not do anything for the people where I live. Where I live will continue to be shooting, slum, and blight. This project is 75 acres, and it might move a few blocks over, but not much more. So we're talking about building this project, and in my district, I have 3 schools, Blanche Ely, Markham, and Sanders Park Elementary School. We've been fighting for years to try to get a roof on Markham. Now we're at the point where they don't have a cafeteria. So what happens today? Every day, the cafeteria workers go over to Blanche Ely High School, prepare their food for the kids' lunch, bring the food back to Markham Elementary School. The kids hold the trays in their hands, and they walk to their classrooms and eat lunch. Not to mention the homeless problem. I dealt with that again this morning. We're overlooking the fact that we have a homeless problem. People need help. And we're not, as a city, doing enough. We hired 1 person, and the job is it's too much for her. She's doing a great job, but it's a massive problem, and it will not go away if we don't do more. But we're not doing enough. So I was very insulted at the meeting that we had at the E.Pat Larkin Center when Phil Mays stood up and said, well, we're going to give you all $500,000 for community benefits one time. What is that going to do? There are so many organizations in this area that's trying to help our youth and our children. And the mayor sitting beside me, he was at Sanders Park not long ago helping them to plant landscaping. Landscaping. We are such, and I've been in this politics for 40 years now. I have never seen our city in this condition ever, ever. And I've attended a lot of commissioner meetings in the 80s and 90s and 2000s. And we hold our head down. And we let this slide. And everybody on TV is watching Pompano going, wow, look at them. Why? It starts with the head. Staff needs to understand when the commission asks you for information, give it to them. I know how I've been treated up here for a lot of years, and I'm still here. And I'm only here because I love my city and the people elected me, and if they didn't, I would still be here, and I would still be working in my community. But we have a staff over there that do not listen, do not care. I don't know whether this is about greed or what. But those 75 acres need to be totally redone. I'm sure we have people in place, and you know who they are, Kim Briesmeister, waiting in place to make them millions of dollars. Not one person stood over there and talked that looked like me.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, let the commissioner speak.
And that's another thing, Mayor. Sitting in these meetings, and I know a lot of you commissioners sitting up here can vouch for me, you allow people in this meeting to clap when you like what they're saying. If you don't like what they're saying, you cut them off. If people walk up to that podium and speak, and it's more than 3 minutes and you like what they're saying, you say, continue on. Continue on. So if you're going to be the leader, be fair and be just. Thank you.
Very good. Please, ladies and gentlemen, please. It's further commission discussion. Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.